You know, the woman you passed by that rainy night, curled up on a bench at the bus shelter with a black eye and no shoes? Most people kept walking. But not him. He stopped, offered her coffee, and changed both of their lives forever. You won't believe who she turned out to be, and what she did for him in return. Let me tell you their story. It was a cold and unforgiving Tuesday night in downtown Chicago. The streets were slick with rain, glistening under the orange glow of the street lamps. Cars rushed past, spraying water onto the sidewalks, and most pedestrians were too busy with their phones or umbrellas to notice much of anything. But David noticed her. He was on his way home from the late shift at the bakery he worked in, 36 years old, divorced, with a quiet apartment and a cat named Benny who waited for him each night. Life hadn't turned out the way he'd imagined, but he kept going. That night, though, his routine changed. As he passed the corner bus shelter near Halsted and Monroe, he spotted a figure curled into herself on the bench. She looked like part of the shadows, but something caught his eye. Maybe it was the torn jacket she clutched tightly or the bruises on her face that were visible even in dim light. Her name was Rachel. She was 24, barefoot, and had a swollen black eye that she kept hidden behind her matted blonde hair. Her jeans were damp from the bench. She held a plastic bag with only a few items inside, some tissues, a broken phone, and a crumpled photograph of a young girl. David stopped. For a moment, he hesitated. People always told him not to get involved. It's none of your business, they said. But something in Rachel's posture, something in the way she flinched at every passing car, made him pause. So, he walked across the street to the 24-hour diner and bought 2 coffees. He came back, careful not to make any sudden moves, and gently placed one of the cups on the bench beside her. "I'm not here to bother you," he said softly. "Just thought you might be cold." She didn't look at him. But she took the cup. That was the beginning. Over the next few nights, David saw her again. Same place. Same bench. Always silent. He'd bring her coffee. Sometimes soup. Eventually, she mumbled a thank you. Then, one night, the temperature dropped below freezing. The forecast warned of sleet and ice. David stood under the shelter holding the coffee, watching her shiver. "You can stay at my place," he said quietly, staring ahead so she wouldn't feel threatened. "Just for the night. I've got a spare room. You'll be safe." Rachel's eyes darted toward him. Fear. Suspicion. Then, hesitation. She nodded. David's apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms, a cramped kitchen, and walls filled with books he never had time to read. He gave her fresh towels, his ex-wife's old clothes that still hung in the closet, and set up the guest room with fresh sheets. Rachel didn't speak much that night. But she cried in the shower. David pretended not to hear. Over the next weeks, Rachel slowly opened up. She had been living with her boyfriend, a construction worker named Carl, who had grown violent over the past year. The black eye wasn't the first. But it was the last. When he hit her in front of her 5-year-old daughter, Maya, she fled. But she didn't get far. Her ex had full custody after manipulating the court system, painting her as unstable because of a breakdown she had a year ago when her mother died. Rachel had no job. No family. No money. Only pain. David listened. He never judged. He never asked for more than she wanted to share. Instead, he helped. He drove her to the legal aid office. Helped her apply for a job at a local diner where he knew the manager. Took her to a community health center where a kind nurse stitched up her bruises, and her spirit. Rachel started to heal. One morning, she cooked breakfast. "I want to say thank you," she said as they sat in his tiny kitchen. "I don't even know why you stopped that night." David smiled, stirring his coffee. "I saw someone who needed help. That's all." Rachel worked hard. She saved money. Found a therapist. Attended every court hearing. Months passed. She filed for custody of Maya again, this time with stronger evidence, a support letter from David, and even statements from neighbors who had heard the abuse. Carl never even showed up to court. The judge ruled in her favor. The day Rachel brought Maya home was the first time David had seen her truly smile. They made a family. Not the traditional kind. David didn't push for anything. He was just there. Supportive. Present. Maya took to him instantly. Called him Mr. Dave at first. Then Uncle Dave. And then, one day, just Dad. Rachel watched it happen with tears in her eyes. Years went by. Rachel became a social worker. She wanted to help other women like her, women who had slept on benches with black eyes, praying for one person to care. She told her story at shelters. At churches. On podcasts. Every time, she mentioned the man who brought her coffee and offered shelter without expecting anything in return. David. And then one day, Rachel stood in front of a crowd at a women's empowerment event. Maya, now 12, sat in the front row. David, grayer now, sat beside her. Rachel stepped to the mic. You know, she began, we talk about heroes like they wear capes. But mine wore a flower-stained hoodie and brought me coffee in the rain. He gave me shelter when I had nothing. And today, I stand here because someone chose to see me when no one else did. She looked at David. And now, she said, her voice trembling, I want to give him something in return. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was an adoption request form. Tears rolled down David's cheeks as he read the name, Maya Hope Carter, requesting to be legally adopted by David Allen Brooks. She had even listed his name under Father. The crowd rose in applause. So the next time you see someone curled on a bench in the rain, maybe don't look away. Because inside that silence, behind that black eye, might be a future counselor, a mother, a daughter, a life that just needs one kind hand to change its course. And maybe, just maybe, you could be the one holding the coffee. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness becomes the biggest turning point in someone's life. Be that turning point.